racist runaways, getting naked with Jeffrey Epstein, sex, drugs, and overcharging for really big boobs? From bathwater meth to child labor bras, here's the dark side of Victoria's Secret.
I'm smiling, but I know the way I look. The look in my eyes is dead.
In 2018, photographer Russell James released a book of his photography featuring Victoria's Secret models, without the Victoria's Secret part, and without much of anything else.
He is a genius.
Let's do this thing.
But not everyone was thrilled with his work. The New York Times reported on plenty of women who hadn't been compensated for having modeled, and many photos had actually been taken at the end of Victoria's Secret shoots, since he was one of their regular photographers. His own daily fee reached well into 5 figures, and copies of his book sold for anything from $1,800 to $3,600. Model Allison Nix later claimed that anyone wanting to work for Victoria's Secret needed to also agree to pose nude for James. Attorneys for James and Victoria's Secret denied the allegations. By 2018, inclusivity and body positivity were hot topics within the lingerie industry. And when Vogue asked Victoria's Secret Chief Marketing Officer Ed Razik whether the brand ever planned to include plus-sized and transgender models, Razik said, "No, I don't think we should, because the show is a fantasy. It's a 42-minute entertainment special." Razik went on to claim that people were, in fact, skinny-shaming the models. Around the same time, he also dropped off social media, only to condemn the public response, saying via Vanity Fair, "I just can't take all the people trying to tell me what an idiot I am. It's extraordinarily toxic." Shortly after, the Victoria's Secret account posted an apology reportedly penned by Razik. Months later, The Guardian announced that the brand had hired trans model Valentina Sampaio and that Razik had resigned.
Love and respect for every kind of human, for everyone.
Victoria's Secret launched their famous runway show in 1995, and it wasn't long before it was less about the bras and more about the pageant. But Business Insider reported on a ton of racially and culturally insensitive issues that started popping up in 2010. That was when Emanuela de Paula was dressed in animal prints in a segment called Wild Things. As the outlet called it out, putting a woman of color in, quote, jungle garb didn't go over well.
So I know it's going to be out of control.
But in 2012, they were under fire again for dressing Karlie Kloss in a floor-length Native American headdress and turquoise jewelry. And in 2014, they were back to dressing models of color in animal print and tribal themes. The backlash continued in 2016, when white models were dressed in Asian-inspired costumes. And in 2017, it was indigenous American cultures that they were accused of appropriating. After years of backlash, nothing changed, with Nylon observing, Victoria's Secret still hasn't learned that cultural appropriation is wrong. In 2019, the brand finally made an attempt to be more inclusive when they welcomed 25-year-old Hungarian model Barbara Palvin into the fold. The Telegraph noted it as a step forward in size inclusivity, but it appeared only by a few millimeters. Many were less than impressed, especially when it was revealed that Palvin was 5'8", weighed 121 pounds, and wore a size 4.
I would go to the gym like 10 times a week.
Refinery 29 exposed another problem, featuring some deceptive marketing. In 2021, the company advertised its returning swimwear line with the help of 2 plus-sized models. But the line in question only went up to XL. That's a US size of 16 to 18, which the outlet noted was well below what even the clothing industry considers plus-sized. As Taylor Long, the founder of the size-inclusive swimwear line Nomads, put it, Victoria's Secret is trying to capitalize on the size inclusion movement without doing any of the hard work. In 2011, Bloomberg conducted a massive investigation into so-called fair trade brands, and what they found was anything but fair. Their investigation into the cotton used by Victoria's Secret led them to a farm in West Africa, where they found children working, starting at sunrise to plant, fertilize, weed, and pick bugs off the cotton. One 13-year-old claimed that in spite of her chronic pain, if she slowed down, she would be beaten.
You don't even want to know how much this costs.
The cotton would go on to become Victoria's Secret garments that were sold as organic and fair trade. According to CNN, the company immediately responded, saying, If this allegation is true, it described behavior that is contrary to our company's standards, expressly prohibiting child labor. Industry All Global Union reported that outside a former Victoria's Secret manufacturing plant in Thailand, more than 300 workers had begun to protest. The location had closed 3 months earlier, and nearly 1,400 now unemployed workers wanted their back wages, holiday, and severance pay, to the tune of $7.61 million. But back in 2007, HuffPost published findings from the National Labor Committee which detailed horrible working conditions at a facility in Jordan. Employees had 3.3 minutes to sew a bikini, for which they earned 4 cents, and mistakes and missed quotas were punished with beatings. Protests were met with arrests. Overtime was expected to be worked without pay, with most working 14 to 15 hours a day. Wages were shorted, and employees were forced to live on the industrial campus. When it comes to the least environmentally friendly industries, fast fashion sits at the top of the list. That's why Greenpeace launched a campaign called Detox My Fashion. And in 2011, scores of clothing companies pledged to become more environmentally friendly. But when 2020 rolled around, Victoria's Secret had done pretty much nothing to reduce their environmental impact. Also that year, The Guardian reported that hundreds of bras were found in garbage bins outside a recently closed Colorado store. Bras that could have been donated to any one of a number of charities.
Wouldn't a mom like to get a brand new bra from Victoria's Secret who's living in a shelter?
The company claimed the trashed items were sample products and apologized for looking wasteful. In 2015, Victoria's Secret got called out in a big way for charging up to $4 more for bras with a cup size bigger than a D. Fashion editor Ashley Hoffman summed up the apparent message like this via Cosmo. "You're less welcome here. You're kind of a hassle, so we'll take more money from you. They're a bunch of self-esteem pickpockets." According to the outlet, Victoria's Secret was the only major bra retailer that charged more for larger sizes, instead of absorbing the cost across the entire line. A price difference which Vogue Business noted wasn't that much. As Good American co-founder and CEO Emma Grede said, "It shouldn't depend on the size of your backside, what your choices are in fashion." In 2015, when model Gigi Hadid was accused by a gossip site of doing cocaine at a Victoria's Secret party, she took to social media to respond, via Vogue. "It's not only impossible, but insane to me. I would never touch that." But other Victoria's Secret models have claimed that many turn to drugs in order to stay ultra skinny. Former Angel Erin Heatherton told the Fallen Angel podcast in 2021 that she felt so much pressure, she agreed to take prescribed hormone injections and an appetite suppressant. Some refer to the drug, which was phentermine, simply as, quote, bathwater meth.
I remember being so angry with myself and feeling as though I'd failed somehow in not being able to survive on just water for that long.
Former model Bridget Malcolm also told The Independent that when she gained half an inch around her hips, she was told she was too big for Victoria's Secret standards. She later claimed, via Insider, that her agent suggested cocaine and sex to keep her weight down. That was in addition to the Ambien and Xanax she was already taking. In early 2020, the New York Times investigated what they called the culture of misogyny inside Victoria's Secret. As one of the 30 insider interviews, model Alyssa Miller summed up executive Ed Razek's behavior like this: "I am the holder of the power. I can make you or break you."
If you look around the room now, I think you'll essentially see nothing but supermodels.
Others came forward to claim that he had propositioned them, inappropriately touched them, and tried to convince them that they needed to sit on his lap to further their careers. When model Andy Muse refused Razek's attempts to kiss her back in 2007, and the then 19-year-old Angel was reportedly dropped from the fashion show. Since the report, more than 100 models have signed an open letter demanding that the company be held accountable, according to ABC News. The retail empire encompassing stores like The Limited, Express, Abercrombie & Fitch, and Victoria's Secret was the brainchild of Leslie Wexner, who was worth upwards of $1.4 billion. And according to Vanity Fair, Wexner hired financier Jeffrey Epstein. The New York Times reported that by the mid-90s, Epstein had near-complete control over Wexner's finances and the man himself. Wexner was quoted as calling Epstein a close personal friend. But after Epstein's downfall, other things started to come out too, like the story of Alicia Arden. As the New York Times reported, it was in 1997 that Arden first met with Epstein, and she claims that she was told that he was a talent scout for Victoria's Secret. Arden alleged that their meeting took place in a hotel room and that she ran out when he tried to take her clothes off.
I didn't expect that I had to be in a bra and underwear in front of him in the hotel room, and he did give me $100 cash as well.
The full extent of the Wexner and Epstein relationship is unclear, but what is known is that when Epstein was finally prosecuted, among his assets were a 51,000 square foot house in Manhattan, a private jet, and a majority stake in a Manhattan condo allegedly used to keep his girls. And who happened to be the previous owner of all that? One Mr. Leslie Wexner. In 2020, the New York Times reported that Victoria's Secret had allegedly been handling various complaints of harassment inappropriately. At the center of this case was Monica Mitro, who was the Victoria's Secret Executive VP of Public Relations. After decades at the company, she came forward in the fall of 2019 with complaints of sexual harassment and discrimination, but she didn't go to Human Resources, later claiming that she didn't think she could trust them. Instead, she went to a colleague who was an independent director within the company. The following day, Mitro was placed on paid administrative leave and named on a list of people who no longer had access to the corporate building. But actual details about the situation aren't exactly clear. The Times noted that when they investigated the incident, they ran into walls of silence, unreturned requests for comment, and others who cited confidentiality agreements. According to Mitro's LinkedIn, she ended her relationship with the brand in 2021 after 26 years and moved on. The New York Times reported that Victoria's Secret had eventually agreed upon settlement terms over the matter. According to The Guardian, Victoria's Secret models are often described as athletes, are lauded for their tireless hard work, and are branded with the hashtag #train like an angel. But some angels have come forward to say that the lifestyle isn't quite what it seems, and they've shared some terrifying tidbits about what they were forced to endure for the company. According to reports, dehydration is a major concern at the fashion shows, and that's because many models have admitted to skipping fluids to keep their weight down. Adriana Lima was famously cited as stopping all solid food 9 days before she had to hit the runway. And it wasn't until after she left Victoria's Secret that model Bridget Malcolm spoke out about the toll that the angel lifestyle had taken on her. She told USA Today that she developed anorexia, needed an average of 12 hours of sleep a day in order to function, and went a year without getting her period.
My life changed drastically, like overnight.
Model Salida E. Banks has also spoken about the requirements of working for Victoria's Secret, revealing to E!
There is a code you have to follow. There is expectation to maintain this size. And unfortunately, we are going against Mother Nature.
Looks like when it comes to expectations versus reality, the wannabe fun, flirty Victoria's Secret Corporation is all smoke, mirrors, and worn-out angel wings. If you are struggling with an eating disorder or know someone who is, help is available. Visit the National Eating Disorders Association website or contact NIDA's live helpline at 1-800-931-2237. You can also receive 24/7 crisis support via text. Send NIDA to 741-741.